A week after David passed away, could you have imagined sitting somewhere talking about it?
A week? No. I knew in my mind I was determined to get over the hump. I was determined. But no, I don't think I could, I don't think there was any way I could really realize the depth of how far I've jumped over the hump. I was just thinking, if anyone who knew me 20 years ago, I'm totally different today. And it's been a process, but it's been deliberate. I've done it deliberately because it made me realize so many things that I needed to change and do better.
And I think that's all of us. There's, number one, growing older. There's things in our lives, I look back, somebody said, would you go back to high school again? Maybe 1 hour with the knowledge.
Yeah.
And stick my tongue out to mean kids? No. No, not really. But, how are you a very different person than when you and Gary were together?
I have jokingly accused him of setting up systems and then not taking care of his half of the responsibility anymore. So, I have chosen to keep up like traditions and things that he started. It's kind of interesting in my 3 children's families. There's one artist in each family, and he used to sit on the beach and do pencil drawings of whatever kids were in front of him or whatever was happening around. So I have those pencil drawings. And then there's one kid in each family that likes piano. So, kind of carrying through. So I think I have a little better perspective on time. And, I want to think back and say, if I had just appreciated what I had at the time, compared to others around me, I knew that I had a better relationship than others. Did I know what I had? Not until I lost it. Yeah. For real. Exactly. Because there were things that I thought Gary maybe should do a little better, and found out later he was doing it and I just didn't know it.
He was doing it pretty well.
So I think it's that perspective of time. I think it's some maturity in me, but I think it's the realization of what was there. And then, as you mentioned, one of the children, of what's continuing through the children. And it's getting long enough now, even though my grandchildren are older, it's getting long enough now that they tell me sometimes they don't remember so much specific conversations with him because they were just little playing around at the time. But the realization of what we have to pass on.
Yes. I think that's why it's so important that we tell our stories.
Yes.
Because there's no other way that they can live on unless we do. Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes people, they're kind of looking at you like, do you really want to tell this? But you do.
It's necessary.
It is very necessary.
I think it's important.
Your family needs to know who they were.
I don't remember who the person was, but I remember pretty clearly the first time that I thought a person benefited from what I had to say. Because other than that, I was not happy with the situation that happened. And hard to find some good in it. Because it's a difficult journey. But the first time I knew for sure that I understood what was happening to somebody that I would not have understood before, that time was significant.
And it pleases you to know that people remember your spouse.
It does. Yes.
It's not like I bring up divorce just because a lot of times the person doesn't want to hear about that other person because there was a problem there.
Right.
But you want to bring dignity and respect and honor to the person that was, and that their life mattered. And it doesn't mean that you're keeping yourself in the past.
No.
It just means you're honoring that person. It doesn't mean if you move forward that you're forgetting that person.
No.
You can still honor that person, and people who understand grief, understand that, you can go 2 or 3 months, things are fine, and there can be just that trigger from a song, a date, just different things that can, remind you of that person. Sometimes I'll be walking through the store and the cologne, I'm like, it just, you're going, are you over there?
Yeah.
And the little things that remind you, but it doesn't mean that you're stuck there.
No. And a common misperception is that you should not bring up the name of the one who died because it will cause sorrow. but it brings great joy.
Right.
Even if it brings some tears, that's fine. It's great joy.
You know, to me, tears and laughter are the same.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's an expression of something deep within. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And an appreciation of the person that was.
Right.
And even, you know, if you're married or if you're in a relationship, the other person knows that person was an important part of your life.
It's part of it.
And was, you know, a long time part of your life.
Yes.
You know?
I think the fact that we had good relationships and good marriages is the reason we can move forward. I think a lot of times, you mentioned divorce, and I think a lot of times in divorce, people think, I'm not doing that again. But I wanted that again because it was good. It was good. So I think that's, and I feel sorry for people who don't have that.
You don't do levels of grief ever, but I have a good friend who is divorced, and we've talked about this thing. If I were going to do levels, I would say hers is worse. Yes. Because she doesn't have the good to look back on. She doesn't have the good to support her now.
Right.
It's not okay to keep talking about that person, even with her children, because everything is a negative.
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful at that point to be grieving the loss by death rather than to be grieving a loss by divorce.
Yes.
And to hear what you said makes so much sense as we talk about moving from we to me to we. If you had that good relationship, you really enjoy being in a relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've had so many people say, well, you know, you had a good marriage, so you don't need anyone else. That's completely false.
Yes.
God made us to want community, to want that. To me, Mitch and I were always a team.
A connection.
You know, that connection. And I enjoy doing things with other people, you know, whether it be just sitting there having a cup of coffee or, you know, talking on the phone.
Yes.
Or, you know, eventually, who knows? I may be like you two in a relationship. You never know.
We're into word connections now. So the we to me to we, I think we know that one pretty well because that word me was hard. I couldn't find a time that it even made any sense. Yeah. And I felt completely married even after the death. Just his dying didn't stop us from being married. And that never goes away. But another word pair that was useful to me was and versus or. So new relationship was not an or. It was another relationship. It's not a replacing. No. It's not a getting rid of the first. No. It's not ever changing the first. And we spent most of our first 3 years talking about our dead spouses. So it was not an or replacing, but an and. And I was finally able to come to some peace by coming to that word and.
Yes. You know, my big word is acceptance. Accept. And I was looking at things this week and some of the 5 stages of grief, and they list them as denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance. But I think that is so, if we can get to the acceptance first, or at least early in the game, it just changes things so much. If you can find it in yourself to just say, you know what, I don't like this, it's awful, but for whatever reason, it is. So I've got to get on with it.
Got to get up each morning.
I've got to get on with it. That was big for me. Huge.
And I told Jesus I didn't like it.
No.
I think it's all right to say that I don't enjoy this.
Yeah.
But acceptance, for me, it was more of I was thankful that I didn't feel the need to ask him why.
Yeah.
Because every time that word came to me, I would always say, as much good as I had, why not have some difficulties in life also? Yeah. So I was thankful that I didn't really have to deal with that one, but I think it was because of acceptance.
Yeah.
That it was finally saying there can be this part of life and there can be more parts of life.
Right.
But that wasn't immediate.
No.
That was months and years down the line.
And the journey, to me, each day is an adventure, whether or not it's by yourself learning to, you know, when I do something that Mitch always did and I do it halfway right.
Right.
That's an accomplishment.
Right.
I'm still not to the technical part yet.
Right.
But
that's not my job.
Yeah, that's not my job. Yeah.
Oh, yes, it is.
No, it is.
Yeah.
It is my job.
Exactly.
I have to learn how to do this, you know.
My first big thing was reconciling the checkbook. I never did that. And David was like, so particular about it, and I still don't do it. But anyway, I just, go online and check things. But yeah, it's just, and something else I thought of is, we're not here to stay.
Right.
We are not here to stay. And I don't know where in our minds we ever got that idea that we are. And I don't know, why do we think people should stay forever? When have we ever been told that? But yet we hang on to that.
It's a little
we think it should be.
Fence and everybody living happily ever after.
It is forever, but not in this realm. There is a forever, but not as we see it right now.
Maybe because we just can't picture the forever.
Right. How it's going to change. Forever's going to change. The looks of it. And that's okay. We have to learn to be okay with that.